Hi, it's another Tech Tuesday with Joyce at Delightful Quilting and Sewing, a Nolting dealer in Avon, New York. Today I want to talk about how your machine actually operates. Now I know that some of you are not the techie kind of person that really care about what makes your machine work. You just want it to have nice stitches. But if you know a little bit behind it, you might be able to make it work a little bit better for you, and there is a little bit of maintenance that you need to do on it. So regardless of whether you have the Nolting Pro with a controller on it like this, where you choose the stitch that you want from precision to or manual idle stitch or a basting stitch, or the controller that we find on the Fun Quilter that has a slider on it. And when the slider is in the up position, it's in the stitch regulated mode, long stitch, short stitch. Or in the down mode, it's not in stitch regulated, it's in manual mode, slow speed, fast speed. And this is the same controller that we find on the CLX. Or the other controller option that we have on the Pro machine has a face on it like this, with the stitch regulated side on the left hand side, where we can choose anything from a basting stitch of 1 inch all the way up to a very short stippling stitch, you might call it, which is stitch regulated at about 16 stitches to the inch. And we can choose the stitch length that we actually want. Or if we don't want stitch regulated, we turn the dial over on the right hand side. These are the controllers. And the older commercial machines that were stitch regulated from Nolting had a controller that was similar to this, that was located on the top of the arm back about here. Well, you probably realize that not all machines are stitch regulated. And if you go back in time, the older machines, most of them were not regulated. You might not also realize that Nolting was the very first long arm on the market that had a stitch regulator. And it was a result of Fred Nolting meeting Zoltan Casa, who now has the IntelliQuilter computer-guided system, came out with the kinds of electronics that needed to be available to create a precision stitch, what we call our stitch-regulated stitch. And the way it works is there are two encoders that work together. There's an encoder down on the arm of the machine right here that travels back and forth in the track. Down there you can see that there's a little circuit board on the top of this encoder. The encoder is actually the black oval thing underneath it, and a circuit board here and a plug that goes from here into a circuit board on the machine. And the other encoder is found on the back. So there's an encoder that rides along the side of the machine. You can see it right down in there. And the other encoder is right here that rides along the back of the frame. So it's getting measurements, information horizontally and vertically as the machine travels around on the frame. So here you can see the circuit board right down there and the phone cord right there. And inside this black little part of the encoder, there is an optical reader in there. And I had one apart once, and it looked like one of those old floppy disks, the kind of material that you found in those. So the information from these two encoders gets sent via the phone cord connection here into the machine, where it goes into a circuit board and it is interpreted. And the speed and movement of the machine determines how quickly the machine is going to fire a stitch so that you get the stitch regulation. So when you get that all that information compiled, you're going to end up with nice even stitches, depending on the stitch length that you choose for the machine that you're using. Now, there is a little bit of maintenance that needs to be done on this. One of the things, of course, is always to keep your frame clean and to clean down inside the track in here. Make sure that there's no lint building up down there, because the wheel that's down there on the encoder needs to have a clean area to move back and forth. It doesn't need to, it should not have any lint that it's rolling over top of. And the same is true with the encoder on the back of the machine. Now, on the encoder wheel is an O-ring like this. You can see that it's about the size of $50, and it's a kind of, it's not rubber material anymore. It's a synthetic kind of material that these are made of. These do degrade over time, and they will get cracks in them. I did a service call about a year ago, and one of the encoder tires had never been changed on it, and when I took it off, it actually fell apart in my hand. It was so degraded and dried out. It's sort of like putting tires on a car and then just putting the car in storage for 10 years or 5 years. You may end up changing those tires simply because of what's called dry rot. And it just has to do with the material being exposed to the atmosphere, and it will degrade over time, whether you're using your machine or whether you're not. So these need to be replaced. They need to be checked every year, at least one time a year, and probably replaced about every 2 years. So they're not hard to replace. In our book, Guide to Quilting with Your Nolting, that's available on our website, www.delightful-qs.com. On page 67, changing the encoder tire O-ring. These are called O-rings because they're used in industry in many different places. So the instructions are here for changing these O-rings. So my suggestion today is take a good look at those O-rings that are on your encoders. Check them out. Make sure that they're not drying out. And with your regular cleaning, you can take some rubbing alcohol and put it on a cloth, and you can get that extra fuzz and lint off of them a little bit better if you use a little bit of rubbing alcohol from time to time. So check those encoder O-rings out and replace them on a regular basis. Just put it on your list to replace them. They're also available on our website. They're $2.50 a piece. You need 2 of them to replace both of them on your the one on your machine, the one that's down located in the channel here beside the machine, and the one that's also located at the back of the machine. So that's it for today's Tech Tuesday tip on encoder O-rings. Happy quilting. I'll see you next week.